Hey, this is Vince Omega, and this is probably going to be my last Dungeon Fighter Online video for this channel, and probably forever, honestly. This video is probably going to go up after Dungeon Fighter shuts down, which is on June the 13th, 2013. Mainly what this video is going to tell is a rematch of the final guy on floor 100, because I felt as though the last one didn't really do him any justice. He's the last guy of the 100th floor, so he should be tougher than that. So it's going to be a rematch with him. And then after that, the rest of this video is going to be basically dedicated to recording every single aspect of my main character, which was known as the monk Omegand. And yeah, that's how you pronounce his name, is Omegand. And pretty much my commentary is really going to be about Nexon and this game and why it failed and how I got into it. I'm just basically going to go through my thoughts on the entire situation. But first, I'm going to let this fight play out, and then after that, I'm going to talk in detail about it.
slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Okay, now that I've had a proper fight with the big bad on floor 100, I guess it's time to essentially say my farewells to DFO. Before I do that, I guess I'll just get into how I got into this game actually. Before playing this game, I say pretty much was I was more of a it's kind of a console guy. Never really got into PCs. And I kind of got out of consoles towards the end of the 6th generation. That's with the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. I mean, I went back and played some console games every now and then, but I never really owned any of the 7th generation consoles, which would be the Wii, Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3. Mainly because with the 6th generation, the main reason I didn't get a Wii is because I was stuck with a GameCube in the 6th generation, and that, in my opinion, that was a big mistake because it didn't really have that many games coming out for it. So I didn't want to make the same mistake with a Wii. Xbox 360, I skipped out on because of its almost infamous and legendary Red Ring of Death thing. I'm not sure if they gotten that fixed towards the end of their console life, or if it still has that nefarious problem. And the PlayStation 3, mainly because it pretty much for the longest time had the problem that the GameCube had during the 6th generation, that it didn't really have strong third-party support. So that's pretty much why I never got into consoles, and plus they were like really expensive. Like, gaming became an expensive hobby. So how I got into this particular game is that I used to play a game called Phantasy Star Online.
Hello there.
And Phantasy Star Online started out on the Dreamcast. Made its way to the GameCube. I played episodes 1 through 3. They were great games. And I guess I was looking for something to replace that. And I learned about Dungeon Fighter Online through the PSO World forums. And a majority of people in the Fresh Kill Lands forum, which is essentially the spam forum for PSO World, were playing Dungeon Fighter Online, but though they mainly left due to the high grind, lack of content.
Hello there.
And yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. The high grind, lack of content in the beginning of the game. And I don't think, with the exception of one other person, I don't think any of them really went back to the game. I was the only one actually stuck with it. But I learned of this game through that forum. And the thing that really drew me to Dungeon Fire Online was the fluidness of everything. It was a game that felt like it should have been a console game. Like to give you an example of like what I meant, like it should feel like it should have been a console game. Have you ever heard and played of Guardian Heroes for the Sega Saturn? It's a beat 'em up that pretty much allows you to input special moves. You can do it through commands too, but you input special moves. It's very fluid.
Hello there.
It's a very fun to play game. But of course, it's not an online game, and mainly when you think of MMOs, you think of point and click type of MMOs. You think of a really huge behind key space bar where you're micromanaging like 10 to 30 different spells. Kind of like World of Warcraft, which is why I never really got into World of Warcraft. Not that I don't like those kind of games. I mean, I've played Diablo 2 before, but even Diablo 2 didn't take micromanagement to the extreme that World of Warcraft and games of that nature would take it to. But besides the point, the main reason I got into Dungeon Fire Online is it was a beat 'em up with online mechanics, and like the reason I stuck with it instead of just leaving like everyone else is because I had picked a character that to me kind of embodied the whole beat 'em up aspects of it. Like normally in an MMO action MMO, I usually either pick like a warrior class, like basically someone with a sword, or I usually pick a mage class because mages like towards endgame tend to be in most MMOs, whether it be action based or turn based, tend to end up being one of the most powerful classes, if not the most powerful class. But I end up picking priest and subclassing the monk because to me it felt like it was the purest representation of what a character should be in a beat 'em up. Like if you ever play Streets of Rage or Final Fight or anything like that, the characters use their hands to actually attack and beat up their adversaries. Like yeah, they can pick up weapons and everything, but to me I felt as though like a pure beat 'em up should be experienced with a character that actually attacks you through their fist. And plus monks look really, really fun and reminded me of Dudley from Third Strike, and basically any other boxing class. So they just seemed really, really fun to use, despite the fact that people had this notion that they were weak at endgame. So like I pretty much got into it through another forum. Played it for a while. I stuck with it because the grind, despite what a lot of people said, the grind wasn't really ridiculous in the beginning. Like if you ever played a legit MMO, like hell, even PSO for example, PSO, like especially in the episode 1 and 2 package that came with a GameCube, you start at level 1 and you get to level 200, and once you hit 120, you're probably leveling up once every 3 days if you play the game like on an average 4 or 5 hours a day. So grinding in Dungeon Fire Online was nothing compared to games like that. But I mean, I stuck with it because it wasn't really that big of a deal for me. It was the only game I was playing at the time, and it just seemed fun. Like even after I capped out at 40, I kept playing the game because I was addicted to like the monk playstyle. Like after using up the fatigue points, just basically grinding for items to sell on through my character's shop when I was at work. Like after I would come home from work, I would basically take the shop down, go into PvP, and just play for like a couple hours because it just felt really, really good. Like, I guess I gotta hand it to Nexon because to Neeple, because they somehow managed to make a game, an MMO that had addictive PvE.
Hello there.
And really good PvP. I'm not gonna say it was balanced, especially not in the beginning, because with any MMO, as long as you have characters have ridiculous gear, there's always going to be some imbalance in PvP, at least until they put in Fair Arena. But that's pretty much how I got into it. And like I said, I stuck with it because the monk subclass was like really, really fun to play. Not to say that I didn't actually play other classes. For a while, I played a magical exorcist, and I've made like at least one of every class. I didn't make one character of every subclass, but I played multiple characters, but none of them really captured what I considered like the raw essence of this game, like a monk did. Now, I guess I could talk about why the game failed, or why I thought it failed. In the beginning, this game had a significant player base. You could go to any channel and there would be massive amounts of characters waiting at the gate. There are always people who were ready to party with you, even though none of them were really that good. But there were always massive amounts of people who would party with you. And it just felt like it was really populated. And there was advertising for the game everywhere. And then after a couple of months, the advertising stopped. And it was never advertised again. So that's a really big dent for Dungeon Fire Online. I guess Nexon had decided to just pull the advertising from it and focus more on a game that was coming up. That game was Dragon Nest, which is actually Nexon America's most popular game to date, because they pretty much took the I think they pretty much took the advertising focus off of Dungeon Fire and put it on to Dragon's Nest, and that's why that game blew up. And I have a feeling that's also why you didn't see like GMs in this game to regulate the game, because they put all that focus on Dragon Nest. Dragon Nest, I believe, has a GM, and they actually moderate the game. Like, they don't allow gold. They pretty much hunt down and ban gold sellers, and they go after hackers as well. That's another problem that this game had, is that gold sellers were never really punished. I mean, there was a period towards the middle of this, like in the middle of this game's life, like towards the end of 2010, all the way up to the middle of 2011, where Nexon implemented a system that actually reduced the amount of gold bots for a while. But it wasn't just gold bots that like pretty much messed up the game. There a big part that also goes towards hackers that would pretty much grief people, especially in PvP, and that's why PvP never blew up. Besides gold buyers who would go into PvP and pretty much dominate most matches against unskilled players, or even skilled players. I mean, you would have to be really on point on your game to beat a gold buyer who was geared out, especially back in the 40 and 50 cap. And hackers who would basically enter PvP and use hacks to do things like summon NPCs during a match, or basically restore their HP at the push of a button. That just basically acted as a deterrent to people who just want to get into PvP and learn the game. And I would say another big part of why PvP never took off was due to some PvP elitists. like some people took the PvP thing a little too seriously instead of just having fun with it. You know, basically this happens in any type of competitive scene. You get a group of people who form some sort of clique and just pretty much go around trash talking people, and they aren't willing to basically take people under their wing and like show them the ropes, or even just basically have fun with the game, not take it so seriously.
Hello there.
That was also a big deterrent for PvP for a long time until like Fair Arena came out. Kind of like normalized the whole situation, got rid of gold buyers, and kind of deflated the egos of a lot of people who thought they were good at PvP.
Hello there.
I think this went off on a tangent. Yeah, okay, so let's see. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why this game never took off. Another reason is basically because people saw the game and instantly kind of wrote off as like a another Korean grind fest, or a game that they wouldn't be interested in because they thought it was influenced by anime. Though I really don't see how the art style in Dungeon Fire Online is influenced by anime at all. If you want something that's influenced by anime, go look at Elsword. That's pretty much blatant anime style. But it was basically things like that that basically people they wouldn't really give it a try because they, like, looking at it, they thought it's a game that wouldn't appeal to them, which is really strange, considering there was a Facebook clone of this game that was actually popular for a while, but people wouldn't play the game that the Facebook clone was copying off of. And I think the biggest reason for this game's failure is, like, yeah, it didn't get advertised, and it wasn't moderated. But Nexon themselves didn't really, Nexon of America, and this was clear towards like the end of the game's life cycle, they didn't really have much of a say on like actually altering the game and making it its own unique experience that was promised in the beginning. They will always have to go back to Nexon of Korea and essentially to Nipo to get okays to do certain things. They couldn't edit the client. They couldn't basically create special events, special unique events for this particular region, like Korea and Japan got. And our client became this really odd mixture of stuff that's in the Korean client, stuff that's in Japan client, and little small things that were made regionally for this particular version of the game, like limitless fatigue points, which some people think killed the game, but I really don't. Especially when a large majority of the early population were actually basically begging for of this game to have limitless fatigue points. And when the game got it, it actually brought some people back into the game. If anything, like, not limiting the amount of time that people could play the game made the game more accessible, especially to people who really couldn't spend a large majority of time during the weekend or during like a hectic schedule and devoted to playing the game. Like, they could basically put all their time into playing this game on their off days, like I did, and then get all their progress in, and then like basically go about their daily business during the week, during a weekday. And like other small things like our unique NPC, but that could barely consider a special feature for this game. But I mainly think if Nexon of America really didn't have their hands tied, like if they've really had sort of more independence with what's essentially considered Nexon's second biggest brand game next to MapleStory, then the game probably would have did well in America. I mean, if they just spent, if they honestly brought the game in with more content than it had at 40 cap, like maybe start at 50 cap and had dungeons going all the way up to Ghent, but not necessarily Ghent dungeons, then I think the game probably would have did better because it would have had sustainable content in the beginning. They should have brought the game in basically like that. The experience cap, which basically, well, the experience grind, which basically drew a lot of players, which basically drove a lot of players away, should have been nerfed at the beginning. HV difficulty should have been nerfed. And I just think if they at least put a couple GMs in the game, at least make their presence known, it would have been much better for the game from a community standpoint, because then it would basically show the player base that the company did care about the game. But DFO never really got that treatment. It always felt like it was the black sheep of its lineup. Even though it basically got a 3-year run, which is pretty good for a game that seemed like it, for a game that almost for a while seemed like it was languishing. So obviously, like, it had fans within Nexon of America itself that were still willing to put time and effort into the game to make sure that, you know, it was still running and everything, all the way up until I would say towards the end of 2012, when the DFL staff got pretty much either removed from the project, fired, or whatever happened there. But aside from that, it just seemed like DFO in America was never really Nexon's biggest priority. They felt as though with the initial dismission of the game for being just a 2D game, they should focus more on 3D platforms, which is why the advertising push shifted from DFO to Dragon's Nest to Vindictus, and then back to Dragon's Nest again, because those games apparently seemed like it was more accessible, especially to a younger crowd, which is what Nexon caters to. They don't really cater to young adults or older teenagers or anything like that. They cater to kids that are like 8 to 14.
Please don't interrupt
I
me
mean,
when I'm focusing.
Their biggest game is MapleStory over here and Combat Arms. So, not that Combat Arms is basically a game geared towards younger people. Most first-person shooters have younger people playing them, though. Like, there's always an infamous 12-year-old over the mic who's probably cussing at their mother for not bringing them the right kind of chocolate milk, who's playing that type of game. That's just the way it is. But,
See what I have to offer.
Breathe. I'm hungry.
like, basically, it's not wrong to say that games that had a, that games that weren't 2D based or were 3D was considered to have better graphics, would cater more to, especially the younger generation, as opposed to my generation, which grew up with, which pretty much grew up with 2D games. They grew up with Final Fight, they grew up with Street Rage, grew up with the NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, who could honestly really appreciate the 2D art style of this game. It wasn't really geared to them, but oddly enough, Dungeon Fighter kind of drew that crowd in because it was an intentional throwback to that era. I don't know.
The festival will
I just
begin
find it
shortly.
really sad that this particular game failed. Like, it's a great game, and I would love that someday, somehow,
What is it?
someone just took the mechanics of this
Suitcase
game
Grand Arena is a
and
this
threw it into a
record is
clone.
perfect for meditating.
Like, it doesn't even have to be called Dungeon Fighter Online. Like, just take the PvP aspect of this game and make it into its own game. And if it was independent from Nexon, this would probably blow up. But unfortunately, this is the only type of game that I've seen.
My blade is invincible.
Ready, fight!
But this kind of combat style is basically taking aspects from beat 'em ups, and it just really has this unintended depth to it. Like, basically, you with this game you can customize your own
I do hope my master
fighter
comes
to your
around
own
event-
style. Like, yeah, I played a monk, and monks pretty much are close-up fighters, but with the way you can customize your character, you can have different types of fighting styles for your monk in PvP. You would have your in-fighters have basically focused on close-up attacks and basically like basically focused on skills, like Shadow Clone. Like they would have like an increased focus on skills like Shadow Clone, increased focus on not their output, so basically overall increasing their damage output. You have outfighters who would basically not focus on those particular skills, but focus on like pretty much tripping up their opponent and then punishing them for it. Like, these are the guys that would basically utilize the side wind glitch, where you would basically throw out side wind and quickly dry out into a smasher and basically grab that opponent and basically do other things. Like, they would focus more on utilizing Sacred Counter more, but basically these are the guys that would pretty much wait for an opportunity to come in and attack instead of just rushing in. And then you have unorthodox playstyles, like my particular playstyle in PvP, was branded like the Magic Monk style, because I put a lot of focus on the Rise in Emlyn skill, mainly because like after they took away the super armor on Exquisite Combo because it was too good, I was looking for a safe way to mainly approach Rangers, and I was thinking Rangers are basically a close-up class that has a weapon. Well, they have a move, their grenade, which is basically a really safe move they could throw out to bait you into attacking them, or to try to trick you into coming after them, and would trip you up and essentially give you a free combo. And for a monk, your only equivalent was you didn't have a physical equivalent, but you had a magical equivalent that you could actually draw from another subclass's tree. And that's where I got the idea of that you would max Sacred Counter as sort of a zoning tool on a class that doesn't really have any zoning skills, and it's sort of a way to basically try to trick your opponent to come in after you and give you a free combo, and like eventually, like messing around with Sacred Counter, I found like reset capabilities with the Sacred Counter move, where like basically you knock a person down, they get up with with quick rebound, you throw out sacred counter halfway towards that quick rebound, and you already have an option of basically holding down quick rebound, letting it pass, and the moment that quick rebound passes, you can attack them because their quick rebound is up, or they can let go and get hit by sacred counter and just get you another combo. Either they're going to get hit with a ground combo, or they're going to get hit with a combo that's going to give you an aerial combo. So it's basically like little things like that.
The sky,
but mainly
the
it's like
land, the wind.
This game had so much unintentional depth that it could be taken seriously as a fighting game. Once you kind of like normalize certain things,
They're out to get me.
and like basically like the community agreed to not do certain things before like Fair Arena was introduced and pretty much normalized it anyway. Like it had the capability of like being a really good fighting game. It's like it was that particular unintentional depth that kept me coming back to the game. Like if this game was just PvE, I probably would quit a long time ago. Even though I like PvE, and I like my character. I like the aspect of like being able to make your character stronger and stronger and stronger by finding better gear. Like that's why I stuck with Fantasy Star Online for so long, because you can I will essentially call it a Diablo 2 effect. You can always grind the dungeon and find better gear than what you have, all the way until you have the most insane, ridiculous gear. Like as you've probably seen in this video already, which is where my character was at, essentially.
I'll sell it to you for a great
but
price.
yeah, if this is PvE, I probably would have quit a long time ago. Or at least like quit for like months and then come back when they release new content and quit again. Which is, I think that's why it was pretty much ingenious on Neeple's part to implement PvP the way it was. But and I don't even fully blame Nexon of America for this game's failure here. Like yeah, they didn't advertise it correctly. They screwed up when they brought the game over, trying to milk it dry and not give players enough content in the very beginning, withholding a lot of content for like a year, and then towards the end they messed up by throwing too much content at once when they didn't have the proper go-ahead from Neeple in the first place. I think that was the biggest thing that like pretty much drove a nail into Dungeon Fighter. It was like after we got Tower of Despair, Nexon of America didn't know what to do because they didn't have any content. People kept asking where the content was, but they didn't have content to give. So people thought Nexon was intentionally not giving them content, when Nexon of America didn't really have permission to give them more content in the first place. That's why we end up getting the Abysmal Arena, because Abysmal Arena is not even supposed to be in our version of the game. It was a Japanese only dungeon, and then we ended up getting it because they didn't have anything else to give us. And then the whole LA office was shut down because DFO wasn't seen as profitable enough. And yeah, Nexon of America didn't really have great customer service. But really, when you look at it, when do you have a game that you're publishing overseas and you can't do what you want to do with it, their hands are practically tied. Now, I'm not apologizing for Nexon of America. There's still things they could have done to keep the game popular here, and maybe they would have actually gotten more responsibility in the end to actually do something with the game, or more, basically like more permission to do other things, like make custom events that weren't basically collect 100 of this and get this. Like real events, like special NPCs that come in and you have to do you had to fight in this special dungeon for something, or you had to fight a special boss, like stuff like that. Like the Korean version has that all the time, but because they weren't allowed to basically hire their own programmers and write their own custom code, they couldn't do that. And that's what pretty much killed the game. Not the fact that they didn't pay enough attention to it. It's the fact that there was too much bureaucratic red tape. They were pretty much given a game, and it's like, let's say you're in sales. And in sales, you're usually given a script. And if you're told to stick with the script and not change the script to suit your own needs, you're probably not going to sell anything because you're going to sound like a robot. That's what happened with this game. Nexon was given a game, given very strict rules. Nexon of America was given a game, given very strict rules, and then told to go make it work. So, I'm just really surprised that DFO lasted through 3 years, mainly because it had such a devout community. But it is what it is. I guess there's one other thing I want to talk about, like mainly why I started recording videos for Dungeon Fighter Online. At the time I started recording videos, I was looking online for like boss videos of like Dungeon Fighter bosses. Couldn't find any, so I figured why not record them, so like if new players want to get into the game, they would have videos to look at. Like they would basically have a preview of the bosses. And then I started getting into PvP and started recording those, mainly because I wanted to go back and just basically have a place where I can just relive like my favorite modes in PvP, even though there's a lot of modes in PvP that I never got to record that I wish I did. They were really amazing, but you can't record all the time because, especially with the old laptop that I had, fraps would lag horribly, and I could never really fight to my best while recording fights and then using fraps. This is really apparent in the older videos where you will see a lot of skipping. And it all kind of just snowballed from there, honestly. Like it started with boss videos, then became PvP videos, and then became the special videos, which special videos are basically me trying to challenge myself. They started, this first two like special video series was basically soloing King's Lair is a pretty much ungeared monk, and soloing Vilmark is an ungeared monk as well, which really took me a long ass time, honestly, for Vilmark. King's Roulette not so much. It was mainly basically to show that, yeah, you can solo this even if you're not geared, which like other characters took that to an extreme, like Soswin for example. Soswin was a player that played this game, who did like really crazy, incredible things like soloing a reverse with an ungeared female grappler by themselves. And this is pretty much a dungeon which has normal enemies with 100 HP bars, and then doing Tower of Despair as an unclassed female fighter. He didn't necessarily beat Tower of Despair, but he got really, really far. But yeah, it kind of snowballed into like the special videos where it was started out as challenges to myself, and then they became joke videos, and they became like videos in cooperation with other people. And I don't know, I just kept recording because the game itself was fun. So, and that's why this particular channel has a lot of videos dedicated to Dungeon Fighter Online, It's pretty much the game I played the most and the game I had the most fun with. Now that doesn't mean that because I'm not doing Dungeon Fighter videos anymore that I won't be recording video game videos ever again. I will be taking a small break, but you know, I was thinking about going back into consoles. Thinking about getting into some Steam games, but yeah, that's pretty much why I stumbled, like, end up doing videos of Dungeon Fighter Online. Mainly is like a reference for people to basically go back and go, like, how would the boss in Frostfield look like before I fight them? Oh, let me go up and look it up on YouTube. Oh, look, is this Vince Omega guy playing this goofy looking monk? Let me watch this video. You know what I mean? So, stuff like that. But yeah, I guess that's my whole Dungeon Fighter experience. My thoughts on what went wrong with the game, how I got into the game, why I recorded videos for it, stuff that you didn't ask for. And this video kind of doubles as a digital reference for myself, and sort of is like a online obituary for Omegan. Like, basically what made Omegan what he was is all recorded in this video. And if you actually have the patience to look at this video, you'll see every item that I've actually ever had in this guy, and what his skill build was in both PvP and PvE. So
There's nothing to do.
Welcome.
How is it that I'm so perfect?
And I guess this is it. As you can see, I didn't really get anyone to PvP with, so I guess I'm just gonna log off and that's it. And these are basically the characters I made over a lifetime of DFL. And as you can see, I clearly put more time into making than like anyone else, honestly. With this game, I was pretty much a one character person, which is rare for me because I usually go from character to character. I'm really gonna miss this game. Rest in peace, Dungeon Fighter.